At this point, you have probably heard the news. Are sellers still footing the bill for buyer's agents? Let's clear up what's really happening in 2025. In 2024, the real estate industry changed in two big ways. One of those is that buyers are now required to sign into a buyer's agency contract before touring any properties. The second one is that brokerage compensation is no longer listed on the MLS or multiple listing service. We're going to dive into both of these topics in just a minute, but for now, hello everyone and welcome. My name is Kara Fiano and I'm a local real estate broker in the Asheville region with Mackey Realty. When these changes were implemented last year, I noticed a lot of confusion, and truthfully, the media made it so much worse. Today, I'm going to break down exactly what those changes are and how they impact you. Starting out with buyer's agency contracts, these contracts have been required in the state of North Carolina for many years and long before these changes were enacted last year. However, that was not the case for many other states. I don't know the exact statistic off the top of my head, but I want to say that prior to this new rule, there were only around 13 states that had buyer's agency contracts. I know Pennsylvania was one of them. I used to do real estate up there. Previously, they were required before placing any offers. Now they are required before even touring properties. I know it may not sound like it right off the bat, but this is a benefit to everyone. Before you sign into that contract, you are considered a customer. Afterwards, you are considered a client, and in this case, the realtor owes you different fiduciary duties such as confidentiality, timeliness, and many more. This contract also sets expectations for brokerage compensation. This leads me into the second change that occurred in the real estate industry. Brokerage compensation used to be readily available and visible on the multiple listing service, or MLS, which is the website where realtors enter different listings, and it's actually where Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, all of those sites pull from, so it's the most accurate source of information. There used to be a field on there where realtors could enter in the brokerage compensation being offered from the listing side to the buyer side. But with the changes that occurred last year, that field is no longer there. What this means is that before touring properties, the buyer's agent has to reach out to the listing agent and ask for what's called a 220 or cooperating compensation agreement. This clearly states what the seller is offering for brokerage compensation so that that buyer's agent can share that with their client. If the percentage that's listed on the cooperating compensation agreement is lower than the amount on the buyer's agency contract, then that is something that the buyer's agent and buyer can discuss. Oftentimes, the buyer pays for that percentage difference, but it is possible to ask for seller concessions to help cover that cost. These practice changes have led to a lot of confusion when it comes to compensation. The reality is, compensation was never a set number. There have always been discount brokers out there that will charge you a lower percentage, but what you're giving up is the level of service. Classically, brokerage compensation is paid by the seller, but you could also argue that this is built into the sale price, and in essence, the buyer is sort of paying for it. If you are currently a homeowner and you're thinking to yourself, well, why would I pay the buyer's agent the same amount that I'm paying my listing agent? Surely I should offer them less money. But let me give you a scenario that will help you understand why it's still important to offer a full brokerage compensation amount to the buyer side. Let's say you have a buyer that's looking at 3 different properties, all listed at $400,000, similar size, location, basically all else being equal. Maybe 2 of those properties are offering the full brokerage compensation amount, but that third one is offering a percentage point less. If the buyer likes all 3 homes, or is even between 2 different ones, and it's between that one offering lower brokerage compensation and one offering full brokerage compensation, in essence, that one that's offering a lower percentage is going to cost that buyer more money. So instead of $400,000, that home is now essentially worth $404,000 because that buyer is going to have to front that difference to their brokerage. A lot of times buyers will know before even touring a property how much brokerage compensation is being offered, and they might choose to not even look at your home at all. So what I've been finding in the market is that sellers that are offering a lower amount are typically staying on the market a little bit longer, having to negotiate more, and they're just not as competitive as the other homes that are offering full brokerage compensation. The sellers that aren't offering as much are shrinking their buyer pool, which is the opposite of what you want when you're listing your property. At this point, some of you might be asking, well, why use a realtor at all? They just seem very expensive, and I really don't see the point in using one. And the truth is, you don't have to. You are fully capable of going out there and purchasing a property on your own. However, you will find very quickly that there are many moving parts to a real estate transaction, and realtors do, in fact, provide a lot of value. This could honestly be a whole other video in itself, but to give you a few reasons, full-time realtors are tapped into the market and are aware of shifts as they're happening so that they can help you price your property appropriately. We deal with legal contracts day in and day out, are expert negotiators and marketers, not to mention the fact that we frequently have to think outside of the box and use creative solutions to get deals done. I will admit there are absolutely bad realtors out there that have added to the bad stigma that the industry often gets. This is why it is really important to read the reviews of any realtor you're contemplating working with, and also meet with them, ask them questions, get to know them a little bit more, and see if your personalities go together, because not every person is for every realtor. What I tell prospective buyers and sellers is you get what you pay for. So if you are curious about the services that I offer, or maybe you want to chat on the phone or meet in person over a cup of coffee, I'm more than happy to do that and to chat with you. As I mentioned earlier, the media really did a disservice to the real estate industry and created a lot of confusion. So I do hope that this video helped to clear up some of those maybe thoughts that you've had, or confusion that you've had over these changes. If you have any questions on them, of course, feel free to leave me a comment down below. Happy to further clarify anything for you. But in terms of how these changes are going to impact the real estate industry going forward, honestly, I haven't really seen a whole lot of impact in terms of home prices as they relate to brokerage compensation, or brokerage compensation maybe being lower in terms of what realtors are actually getting. What I've really seen is that sellers that have kind of tested the water, they'll sometimes have to accept a lower purchase price and possibly offer more in terms of seller concessions. Well, that about does it for today's video, and I'll see you very soon in the next one.